This is Zettelcast, brought to you by readers, writers, thinkers, and teachers from LiLLiPub, along with our partners in thought, our Zettelkastens. In this show, we share discoveries that our Zettelkastens have shown us.
There you go.
And compare notes on how we're using this marvelous invention in our creative work. Thank you for joining us.
All right, Book.
Let's do it again.
All right.
Episode 34. Take action with your Zettelkasten. Welcome all to episode 34 of the Zettelcast. I'm your host today, Julianne Scherer, and we're just gonna be talking about stuff. Back around the holidays, I did a thing, or it was in the episode called Memorability. I introduced everyone who was present. I think that Victoria, you were off scrambling some sort of reality. Anyway, we talked about memory techniques, and then I also introduced this thing called lean coffee. So we're not going to start with lean coffee, but lean coffee is what we will probably go into if our first topic doesn't carry us all the way through the hour. And so I'm going to ask Kathleen to let me share my screen very briefly so everybody can just see what our first topic is. And let me make sure I got all the things going. Okay. This is the topic. So if you thought of your Zettelkasten as the perfect marketer of actionable ideas to you, what would you keep doing? What would you start doing? What would you stop doing? So that's our question. We actually mentioned this a few episodes ago because I had posed this informally to the crowd, but it seemed like it was worthy of a discussion here. And so that's what we're going to talk about first. Who would like to go first?
I got confused because I think, I have a note that says that I submitted a one-pager April 21st on this topic.
You might have. We didn't. It wasn't the topic of that episode.
I saw that when I was looking around. I'm saying, why do I have this labeled this way? It's nowhere to be seen. And I listened and everything, it wasn't there. Anyway, start doing. Tag notes with actionability ratings. And so what are actionability ratings? It's like, if you have something that you can label something that immediately actionable, or you can label it, here's a group of ideas that might be quick wins, something you can just implement with low effort, or something may be labeled strategic value as something that's has a long-term goal, but it requires some kind of planning. But if you have it labeled as a strategic value or whatever combination of words you want to use to say that, then this thing is flagged, and okay, this is something I have to keep in mind. It's in the back of my mind. I need to plan it out. Or you could have something experimental, like it's worth testing, but so you want to take baby steps into it and see, if that's really worth your while. Or something that's a little bit bigger that needs some resources. Or you could have a label called Insight Builder. So this is something that's not quite actionable, but it enhances understanding that leads to action. And decision support, it helps evaluate choices between multiple paths that you might want to take. So you've got all these paths in front of you. Which one is best? Somebody was going to say something. No.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm loving it.
We're just agreeing.
Okay. And then there's the idea of something that might need a little bit more refinement, right? So you can flag that and say, okay, this is promising, but it's not quite there. So you have that flag and separated from the rest. Something else that might be, actionable, but it's only in specific situations. So you might call it context dependent. And the last thing suggestion is reference value. There's something that's the background knowledge that supports better action, but isn't an action itself. So it's just referral or reference value. And so that's about all I have for that.
So with those labels,
Yeah.
how do you make sure that those labels surface for you? How might you?
Well, I mean,
done that already.
One of the things that I'm going to start doing is to conduct weekly reviews. Okay, so you keep up with yourself by what they say, a life unexamined is not worth living. Well, so you examine your life to make sure it's worth living, with your +1. So and the other idea of start doing is to create dedicated sections with a la number 29 when he talked about a plot, not a plot, no, plot bunnies. That's yours, Victoria. Sorry, but he when Scott talks about having the prose section, so that's what that is. And the last one that I have for start doing is to add a why this matters section to your cards, or a next step. So you have this card and it's right there, and then you have next step is and you have it flagged right there as to what you're going to do after you finish dealing with that particular card. So
Pretty good.
Yeah. Well, I know I'm going to be replaying this section and looking at the transcript. That's quite a lovely set.
Yeah.
okay, well that's my. I mean, you actually okay, and to keep doing is to maintain your clear links between your ideas. You write notes in your own words, critically important, and to capture ideas all the while and not just after meditation or something, So you do it during conversations, you do it when you walking down the street, you have some kind of tool so that you can capture ideas when the muse says hello. You say, yes, listening, and you you get right in there with her. And the idea of don't allow your Zettelkasten to become an archive. The idea of, just a collection of stuff that you say you're gonna, but you never do. And so it doesn't happen for you. Just make sure that all the connections between the ideas are never left unexplored, right? But again, that's the review, the scheduled review it. You take the time, you deliberately block out the time to go through what you've been through, so um that's all, folks.
Yeah,
Excellent.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Who'd like to go next?
Well,
I don't want to follow that.
I'll follow it. So I see the main Zettelkasten as being more about potentiality than action. Because let's take an example from fiction writing. If you only have one prompt to write a story from, that doesn't give you a whole lot to work with. Just one idea, one prompt. But when you start mixing multiple prompts and seeing how the ideas can bounce off of each other, then you can start to really develop an interesting story, especially if they're not related at all. And finding the way that they could be related lets you make a really interesting story sometimes. So whenever I'm getting stuck on writing something, then I'm like, well, perhaps I need to add another idea because what I have isn't cutting it, right? So the main Zettelkasten box has ideas stored in it, and in the process of adding new ones, we find the linkages, and sometimes you end up with two ideas colliding, and bam, that's when they create an action. But the box itself is not necessarily creating actions the way I use it, not systematically. It's something that when it happens, you have to capture it, and I'll talk about that part in a moment. But it's a potentiality generator, I guess you could think of it in one way. But how do you capture it? Still working on that part, but one thing that I've been doing is working on Kathleen's vision box idea. And I've got three different levels in there right now. There's visions, which are very, they're not actionable. They're just, ideas of where I would like to go. But there isn't any point where you say, well, I have completed this vision. That's the purpose of goals. Goals are actionable, and you know when you've completed them, and so that's sort of the next level down. There's multiple goals the idea is they lead you towards your vision. And then within the goals, there's projects, which is, of course, another level down of being smaller and more actionable, quicker to do. So I am still very much at the top level, but I could see this being the vision box and its related parts being the repository for the actions that the main Zettelkasten spits out. Like there may be some combination of ideas that is really exciting, but it doesn't have anything to do with what I'm currently working on. So I need some place to store the idea that happened, so that when it does fit in with something, or maybe I'll start a new project that would use it, then I can remember that. So I'm seeing the vision box and its related parts being where you would keep those reminders to go back and find those actions that the other box has spit out for you.
Anything you stopped doing?
Well, I don't need my Zettelkasten to just be an action generator. So I don't mind that there are some parts of it that are specifically just archival and they don't have ideas that are going to bounce off of each other. I'm okay with that. My Zettelkasten is happy to have them. It doesn't care. I know that Zeke has strong opinions about such things, as Kathleen has said in the past, but Clavis is the universal key, and Clavis is happy with anything. So, I don't mind there being archival stuff that is just information and it's not going to necessarily generate any actions or ideas. And that's okay for me.
So if you've been debating that, you can stop the debate.
Yeah.
Awesome. Who's next?
I guess I will, since it ties into what Mel's been saying. He mentioned my name twice, so and it does relate exactly to the ways in which he mentioned me. One is I initially took it from the standpoint of a little bit more of a meta question. How is it that your Zettelkasten helps you find things to do, to continue to start doing, continue doing, or stop doing, rather than coming up with a list? So, but I just love Deb's list so much. I thought, oh, I misinterpreted that question totally. So, but I'm going to answer it the way I interpret it. And that is, yes, I do keep a vision box and this got going. Mel credited me with the vision box, but he's more to blame for the vision box. This is a little bit of a circular thing going. Mel sent around a posting about doing 101 goals in 1,001 days. And that came into my life at a very opportune moment, because I was in the middle of doing Haley Renee's purpose course that she has, HaleyRenee.com if you're interested. And in Haley's course, you're doing tons and tons and tons of free writing, which the idea is, of course, to help you get focused on where you are being called to make a contribution in the world. And then, of course, that's very much at the nebulous visiony stage, and very, very nebulous, because by the time you're 3/4 into the course, you still haven't come up with anything concrete at all. And that's exactly at the moment when Mel's 101 goals in 1,001 days hit. So it's like, okay, we're going to go from this flurry of heaven knows what to, okay, name them. And that was such a contrast shock that it made me stop and consider, well, how are all these nebulous things going to turn into goals? And so that's why I started my vision box. And I named really just 4 key areas of life where I had ideas of what I hope to contribute. So I made my vision cards from that, but it still wasn't enough to be goals to meet Mel's challenge. And I'm sure Mel thought that we would answer him back in the matter of days, maybe weeks, not months. But it did take me months to get it all the way down to the point where I had goals, specific goals. I turned each of the visions into specific goals and optimistically gave them sticky notes to become projects. So I still have a gap. And I've talked to Victoria a little bit about this, because she has some capabilities in that area and some contribution that she's going to be making about how you can take things like these projects and break them down well enough so that you can make forward progress on the right ones at the right time. But all of that is by way of introduction, because what I learned in the process of doing all of this was that, and I ended up with 96 goals. So it came pretty close to the 101. Realizing that if I really pursue all of them to the degree that Deb's list challenges us to perform at that level of performance, I don't need 1,001 days. I need 1,001 years. Not going to get it. So now I realize that right at about the moment in time where I'm realizing that I've got to do some serious pruning. How am I going to manage all of that pruning to narrow it down to what I'm going to start doing and keep doing and stop doing? But as just great good fortune came, I had vacation in there, and and had a ridiculous number of travel delays and layovers, which gave me this insane amount of time to read, and that enabled me. I brought with me 3 passions, the things that excited me and interested me enough that I wanted to bring along on vacation to read. And I just said, okay, I know that they're flying off in 3 different directions. And what I really need to do is prune and narrow and focus in on one thing. So what on earth am I doing flying off in 3 different directions? Well, it's vacation. So by golly, if you can't fly off in 3 different directions on your vacation, when are you going to do it? And to my amazement, we just enlightened one another and came together unified, which I think Mel and Deb and Julianne already sensed, because now I realize what their posts were saying. I can be dense sometimes, but they all kind of support, reinforce, and enlighten each other. And I realized that these are all, each one of them, tools rather than knowledge areas. And in mastering the tools of pattern language, thank you, Julianne, the tools of Ramon Lull's logic system, thank you, Mel, and the essay patterns of Michael Dean, thank you, Deb. I will have a body of tools that will enable me to actually accomplish the key goals in my box and make it very easy for me to say, well, you know, this is practicality and it's got to get done, but maybe it doesn't need to be done by me. And be able to focus in on the things that, yes, this is where I need to focus my talents and my efforts. And these tools will help me do that. So it was very magic.
Beautiful.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Wonderful. Yeah.
Well, Victoria, sounds like you've got some insights for us, maybe?
I kind of feel like the 8th grader that goes to visit the high school and is just terrified the entire day. That feeling that Deb says she often gets, where she's like, who am I? What are you? What's happening? I'm having it. Well, I guess I kind of came at it from a different perspective a little bit, in that I'm just a weirdo outlier, because I don't use my system the same way as most people do, other than I use it to generate writing. So, I mean, it's pretty simple. I've kept it very straightforward, because if there's too much complexity, then I find myself spending too much time in the complexity and not doing the work I need to do. So from the beginning, that was kind of, it was just a rule, an unwritten rule that I had in my head, which was link everything together well enough that I can always find my way back to things, but don't go overboard. Because, you know, when I read Scott's book, it's so dense in addressing and ways to do things. I'm such a Virgo nerd. I thought, man, I could go down that hole and just stay down there forever and be perfectly happy. But I knew that wouldn't get anything accomplished other than, you know, filling out cards and having fun with math. So that was off the table from the beginning. And then I just thought, well, it's going to have to be built strictly to serve my story at that point. So keeping it pretty straightforward, and I stand by my catalog index rather than using note cards for indexing, because it really does allow me to see a lot at a glance, and that has helped tremendously. Especially, I don't know, I haven't experienced it the same way writing my nonfiction book as I did writing my novel, because seeing everything together, all of the pieces, you know, like let's just say under the keyword see, seeing all of those words together is such a generator for ideas, kind of in the way that Mel was describing. It just, you see things that you would never have made the connection in your brain, but when you're looking at all of it, and of course every keyword carries the meaning of the research or the reading behind it. For me, that's one of the most powerful things is, like Mel said, sometimes I will just sit and just leaf through my index, and an idea always comes out of that just from seeing all of those things. So for me, that's probably one of the top values is if I get stuck in a project, it's 99 out of 100 times because it's something that I describe as I can't see it. I'm in chapter 6 of editing the nonfiction book now, and I really got stuck for a period because I couldn't see all of the pieces that were being edited, and I had to come up with a different way to do it. So, this whole process is always a journey of figuring out what are you trying to accomplish? And then, like Kathleen said, what tools are best going to serve you? And I think what she's done by evaluating different tools that can serve that purpose is another thing that this process brings you to. Because for me, I learned pretty quickly what's not going to work. Like, this system, this idea, this app, whatever. I'm like, nope, you're out of here. That's not going to work for me. And it just really helps dial in your lane, especially when you need to write, of what is going to work. And so, I would say very thorough indexing and keeping things simply connected together, and then, giving myself a big way to look at everything. Those are probably the most important pieces for me. That's how I get the work done.
Cool. Well, so while I am responding to my own question, I had suggested that for the lean coffee, we come up with what we'd like to talk about next. So those of you who haven't, who have an idea of what you'd want to talk about next, go ahead and just put it in the chat while I'm talking. If you don't have anything, don't need to. What?
Wait, I don't know what that is.
Lean coffee is a democratic, agendaless conversation where each of us say, I want to talk about this, and then we're going to vote. And then we're going to time box the conversation on the highest voted thing. And then after that time box has elapsed, we'll say, keep on going with that one or on to the next one.
Okay.
Yep. So just whatever you want to talk about, that's where we start, and then I'll guide us through the rest of it. Okay. You all are getting exposed to the remnants of my experience as an Agile coach. Lean coffee is something. Lean coffee is used so much in by Agile coaches that people are like, "Is that a crutch? Shouldn't we have an agenda?" But anyway. Another thing from I learned from Agile coaching, and I think it ties really well with what Deb just said. All right, first of all, this prioritization mechanism has the worst name. And Deb, you can take its initials, WSJF, and do your lovely thing you do. So WSJF stands for weighted shortest job first. It's a way of taking all those components of the decision making that Deb, you were talking about, and giving them, it's not scientific, but it's systematic, giving them a score, and then there's a formula. It works like this. You come up with a grading scale of how valuable is this to, it's viewed in business as what's the business value, right? But what's the value to your people that you want to share stuff with, right? So what's the value? And coming up with a number system, what works very nicely is Fibonacci. One, low value. Two, twice as value. Three, even more. 5, 8, right? So that's the value, business value. The next is time criticality. It's often called urgency, but people will start conflating value and time when they think of urgency. So I say time criticality, and it's kind of like, if I don't do this now, is there a point at which there's no point to have done it at all? Or someone else could do it. It's not, is there a ticking clock on the value of this thing? So that's 3. And you can do the same thing with Fibonacci. You can use Fibonacci for all these things. Then you've got risk/opportunity. Does this enable something else? If I don't do it, will something else fall apart? That kind of consideration. Then the fourth thing is, how complex a job does this seem to actually do? Right? It's some people, if you go to time, you're already estimating your time. Don't do that. Just like, how big does this feel? Now, you take those first 3, the business value, the time criticality, and the complexity. You add those and you divide it by, the risk. Business value, time criticality, and risk/opportunity. You take that's your numerator. Your denominator is the number that you came up with for the complexity. You end up with a score. The weighted shortest job first is the thing with the highest score among all of that stuff. And it ends up being a very great way to pick the low-hanging fruit.
Wow.
So I'm thinking of a little label that you could put on, let's say you've got a vision card, kind of like your own little hand-drawn spider diagram, and it doesn't need to be perfect. But you've got the 4 components as spokes of the wheel, and in the center you've got the result. And that could sit there in your index. That's just one little gizmo that I only thought of, Deb, as you were talking about this. So,
Okay.
but I think that might be a nice way. And then if you say, okay, I need to look between these things that are 6.5 to break a tie, then you'll go and see how you arrived at the number. But it gives you, it helps you understand where you've got big rocks that need to be broken, because the number's so high, it's never going to get done if that number, something else is always. So anyway, I'll post some links to information about how to do it. It's very, very technical sounding, but it doesn't need to be that. I think we kind of get it. We have a friend in LiLLiPub who's definitely going to say, "Sounds sciencey, Julianne." But so yeah, I think I'm going to do that. In addition, so that's what I'm going to start doing. So this question came about as I was trying to complete my own vision box. So I have a vision box that's got several dozen things in it, and all of those things, I've got what is it, my personal reflection on it, which tends to be about like, why do I think this is cool or exciting, right? A tagline with index terms, and it's not indexed yet. And I'm doing the thing, Kathleen, that you've talked about most recently, which is look through your index for the candidates and write all the candidates on the back of a card. But in fact, actually put all the candidates into a card itself. I'm just doing it on the back of the card right now, but I plan on doing that. It's already good. And so I'm going to keep on doing this. And God willing, I'll finish indexing this vision box, because then it's like Mel said, it's probably going to be an ongoing thing. You know, new things come up, you need a place to put it. But it's starting with a backlog of 63 items. It's just, it's a slog, but it's fun. It generates a lot of ideas. Another thing that I will absolutely keep on doing is indexing my bib cards. Those are already showing up as I'm looking for one project to another. I see, well, that book works in this one too, and this one too, and this one too. And I would say because the book that I haven't read, it represents potential, Mel. My tagline tends to advertise the potential of the book more than my taglines of things that I feel like, nailed it, got a concept, got an idea, I stuck it in my thing. So I think that what I will see about as I'm making main cards is how I can continue to capture actionable potential in the taglines that I already have a model for in the bib cards.
Very cool. Julianne, I have a question about the first process that you were talking about. When you say that you're one of the axes is risk, is that looking at what are the consequences if I don't do this thing or if this thing doesn't get done?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Otherwise, if it's like, how risky is it to do? I don't know. I'm not an expert on that one.
Mm-hmm.
I think you have to be consistent with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Because to me, it's really all about that. It's just like the Fibonacci numbering system, right? Pick a system and stick with it. And pick a definition of risk/opportunity and stick with it until you find, oh, no, this is not really working. But I think a lot of times if the risk of doing it wrong goes more into the complexity of the activity rather than as a prioritization part of it.
Amazing.
WSJF.
WS as in Sam, right? Like
Mhm.
Wall Street Journal stuff, you know. Mm.
All I've got is wise Jeff. But anyway, I can think of a Jeff who's fairly wise and a Jeff who is not so wise. And so either way.
Did you say W?
Uh-huh.
S is in Sam, J is in Joyce, and S is in Sam, right? Or did you
Oh,
say
F.
Ah,
Weighted shortest job first. So F for first. Deb. She's going for it. Okay. Does anybody have any other topics that you want to suggest for the rest? Okay. Okay. I'm just going to take this and put it onto the slide so that we can vote. All right, Deb, do you have anything or you want to just, we've got 3 topics to choose from here.
Oh, I didn't hit send on mine, I realize.
I don't have anything at the moment. No. I guess I do. No, I don't.
So, so you have another one? Kathleen? Because you,
I typed it up, but I forgot to hit send, so I just hit send. It's in the chat.
okay. Oh yeah, no, you already put that in the other one. I had that from you.
Oh, okay.
Yep. Okay, I'm gonna share my screen. And so we've got 3 topics. Some of them, well, you can just evaluate. And we don't, if we were not able to see each other, then the voting might be stamping on the screen, but we don't need to do that. We can just hold up fingers. So, um, so Mel, you said, I would like to hear more about the Kathleen Victoria organization of actions and projects. Kathleen says, in the flood of wonderful things you could do and would love to do, how do you prioritize which ones get action steps? Victoria may suggest something at another time. And I have something that doesn't sound related, but it was related to me. What does a healthy relationship with AI look like?
Hmm.
And the reason I'll advocate for this for a little bit, but I could totally see why you'd rather just go with one of these others. The reason that this one came up for me is that I was really imagining, well, what if my Zettelkasten were like a perfect search engine optimized thing that even was there when I was searching, thinking about that. But anyway, so that's how it related to me. And of course it relates to our Roanoke project. But anyway, I'm done advocating because I really am not trying to sway anybody. So Mel's topic, more here, we've got 15 more minutes. I'd like to hear more about the Kathleen Victoria Organization of Actions and Projects. Raise of hands.
I'd like to do.
Okay. Mel gets his own vote, of course.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Why don't we just do that?
Yeah.
Why don't we just do that?
Sure.
All right. I'm gonna stop sharing. So, Victoria on the phone. Good luck. So Mel, what do you want to hear more? What sparks your curiosity?
I'm interested in, and maybe they haven't quite worked this out yet, but I'm interested in the processes of how an action moves through the system and how the different parts of it connect to each other, how the vision box connects to however you organize the projects and how that connects to the daily process of seeing what you're going to do. And I'm just trying to get an idea of the flows of how this would work.
I can take it a little ways, but then I have to defer to Victoria because I'm wanting to know about her method because I know she's done more work
She
in
said
the
she's back.
Yeah.
because I have the two ends are working for me right now, but the middle isn't. And so that's what I'm really eager to do. I was able to take my vision statements and doing a kind of a mental version of what Deb was talking about, how actionable is this vision? And if I found it wasn't actionable enough, then I broke it down into visions that were more actionable, ultimately to the point where I could name it as a project. And at that point, it got one of these cards. And one of these, which is just a 3x3 sticky note stuck to a repurposable card, because it's shiny, so I can stick things to it without losing the gummy. And so then I just break down little action items in little check boxes on this. And then my challenge is, and why I want to get Victoria's help is that right now at the start of the week, I have got to go through all 96 and decide, what can I accomplish this week? And in particular, what can I accomplish this day? And I end up with, well, I probably can't do 16 things a day. So why did I pick 48 for the week, you know? I that's kind of that's that gap, and that's why it was my question. So I voted for yours, Mel, because I think it was a more practical way of stating my question as well. And I'm hoping Victoria can help us there.
Okay, you precocious eighth grader.
Okay, now I'm in my lane. Hold on, I need to grab my
Yay.
notebook because
Yeah, because Victoria, you're the queen of getting things, of actually accomplishing things.
Oh God, just keep telling me that. Okay, Kitty, you gotta go. Just keep reminding me of that. It's been such an awful week for just everything. I mean, I think, and I don't know, maybe you've experienced this too, but I think as a writer, we kind of go through seasons, and mine change sort of month to month. And like this last couple of weeks this season has just sucked. It just has. And I know a big part of that is because from like the beginning of last month through about the end of next month is just really intense in my work environment. So that pulls all of my focus. And so I'm constantly trying to get back to what I want to be doing. And, you just keep getting piled on, and it really just, it ruins the process. It ruins the fun. It just sucks the life out of everything. So going back to when one Miss Kathleen Sprecklin shanghaied me into writing a book, I started thinking when I first did the table of contents, which is one of the earliest book writing exercises that we're told to do, I, at that point in time, was looking at about 21 chapters, which was horrifying. I thought there's no way I can get this done. So I shopped around the idea of condensing the material and writing a shorter book. And I was immediately told, you will not do that. You'll write the book that you want to write and shut up about it. So I was like, okay, won't be shortening anything. So that's when I really got diligent about figuring out, knowing it was going to be a big project. Scott says a 3-day, a 30-day, or a 300-day book. I knew it was going to take me a year. And I thought, well, I'm going to have to break it down. So when I wrote my novel, again, wanting to just get that first draft done, that was the genesis of what I now call the 60 for Success writer system. 60 for Success takes your writing project and breaks it down into 6 60-day increments. So what I found when I wrote the novel, I was using another writer's kind of planning system that is 90 days. So you reset every 90 days. And what I found for myself is 90 days is too long. It gives me too much time to get off track. And once I do that, it's really hard to get back. Well, then I thought, well, 30 days. 30 days wasn't long enough for me. 60 is the sweet spot. So that's how I wrote the program. So using something I teach you in the book, which is the metrics of writing. So you figure out, okay, what's my big goal? Is it, a 60,000 word romance? Is it a 100,000 word fantasy? Identify your genre and your standard genre word count per se. Once you have that number, then you can start breaking it down into those increments. So let's just use 100,000 words because it's a round number. 100,000 words in a year. Well, I'm going to break that in half, which puts me at 50. So I know I've got 6 months to write 50K. So, okay, then you continue to break that down into your 60 days. So you start with your sprint metric. You're going to do 10 sprints, writing sprints of say 25 minutes, and you're going to come up with your minimum viable unit. What minimum unit of writing feels finished to me, makes sense, and feels like I've expressed my thought in this chunk. For me, that's around 600 to 800 words. It varies often by how much research and prep work I've done. But that allows you to kind of know, okay, if I sit down to write for 25 minutes, I'm comfortable knowing I'm going to get a good 500 words. So once you know that about yourself, then you become virtually unstoppable, because it's what I call slippery, or I can't see the project. Once I know this is my word goal and this is my pace, then all you have to do is line those things up and know, all right, if I'm going to get to 50,000 words in 6 months, I need to do this many sprints, which are going to get me to my word goal. And then we do other things to help you understand how to go about breaking it apart for editing or sequencing or whatever else you need to do. So once I did that, I kind of dialed that in with the novel. Then I created the basic template, which this is all that I'll share because the rest is still getting printed. But so this is the 60 for Success template. So up at the top, you've got 7 days of the week. And I break those into 2 days. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And for me, Sunday is always an off day. So Sunday is for resetting for the next week, setting goals, whatever. So once I got those 3 cells, so I've got 2 days, 2 days, and 2 days, then I set up my metrics. So across the bottom, it tells me what writing day it is. So this was in the 200, so I was about finished with the book. Up top, I just fill in my dates. And then the center, I use to break it down for anything I need to remember. Like maybe there's a source I want to check. There's a book I need to read. It's just a quick at a glance for those little day tasks that I know I'm going to need to do that week. So those just get kind of penciled in, because I'm still not really prioritizing yet. I'm just giving myself a bird's eye view in a very small space, so I can't fill it up with too much. I can only do what fits in that little square. So then it gets processed. The second set is 2 boxes, 1, 2, 3, 4 from top to bottom, and 5, 6, 7, 8 from top to bottom. So I've got 2 cells here, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, 6, 7, 8. Each one of those corresponds to a research task, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So whatever's on line 1, if there's something I need to do that requires an action, I'm going to drop down to my 1 and I'm going to tell myself where to go to find it or how to go about it. I'm just giving myself a little bit more information on how to get that thing done. And then off the bottom is just simply a note box that tells me things to set up for next week. There's only 4 of them. I can't do 10 million. I can do 4. So in that way, I've kept it within even numbers and very limited. You got 4 things for the week, and that's it. And then you've got your little cells up at the top. So in that way, every Sunday, I pull out that week sheet, I go through it, and I carry over things that didn't get done to the next week or next action items. What I found in practice is I tend to chew on what's in these 2 main boxes for about 2 weeks at a time. So the planning fallacy, I overestimated how quickly I would get those things done. So I found myself just kind of carrying the same sheet for a couple of weeks and then resetting it. Obviously, every writer and every writing project is going to vary a little. The whole key to the system is figuring out how you work and then figuring out how to set yourself those milestones that allow you, to see progress. Because if I don't see progress, then I'm horrible to live with. And to help you see where the finish line is. Because if I can't see what I'm headed to, it's very easy for me to spin out in the middle and waste a lot of time, making lists, creating cards, prioritizing things, reprioritizing things. I can spend weeks lost in that process. And so I knew it had to be 1 sheet, you get 4 things a week, and that's it. And that has really helped me stay on track and see the milestones as I go. So that's the simple breakdown for how it works. It's pretty straightforward once you know Once you use the metrics of writing to figure out where you are, then you can start calculating how to get to where you're going. And I did it with my novel, and that was the prompts on the sheet for the novel were more idea based. You know, it would be something like Branch needs to discover something about his parents. And literally that would be it, because I didn't know what it was yet. I just knew I needed that story plot, or excuse me, that plot point or plot beat. For the nonfiction book, it became very much a detailed roadmap, because again, the book has ended up being 17 chapters. I can't hold all 17 chapters worth of stuff in my head. So I've had to get really detailed and like, okay, in chapter 6.604, I need to remember to ask this question, you know, insert this note card. It's very specific. And I think that's what has helped keep me on track, because I never allowed myself to try and hold it all in my head, because for me, that would have been death early on. So that's how it works. And this can easily be converted to note cards if you'd rather do it on a card. I did a good portion of the novel using note cards, which was fine. I personally found I like having them, you know, in a ring binder so that I can flip through and find things. Again, seeing more real estate at a go is really helpful for me. So I ended up violating my note card rule and put it on a worksheet. There you have it. 60 for success.
May I ask a follow-up question on that? I think it's totally.
Yeah, please do. Yeah, that was great.
When your nonfiction book comes out, I know you plan also to have a newsletter. So how do you expect your system will grow or be modified when you are juggling multiple projects at the same time?
Funny you should ask that. As I was starting to build out what I call my information environment, which includes my novel, it includes the Zettelkasten for Fiction Writers book, it includes the course that I'll be teaching, which harnesses the Zettelkasten and applies it to several narrative poems, so you can use it for poetry. And then also this system. So there's about 8 different products, if you will, that populate that environment. And so what I did is I started dividing my worksheet by project. So rather than having 8 to-do items that are all on this one project, one way that I did it is I broke each one of these out, so each item is its own project item. So like on an older one, number one is the Zettelkasten for Fiction Writers book. Number 2 is the masterclass, the Zettelkasten for poetry. Number 3 is just labeled research items, and that sends me to another section actually in my note box, which is things that are in the back of my mind that I know I'm going to need to know more about. So that's just kind of a place holding reminder. Number 7 is the 60 for success system. Number 8 is always my novel, because I always want to have a reminder that if there's something I need to include or I'm thinking about or whatever, I always want to have one brain cell on that book that has yet to get its edit finished. So there's several different ways you can break it apart. You can have one sheet represent multiple projects, or you can do dedicated sheets for each project. That way everything stays in one place. I've done it both ways and it works fine either way. It's really just a question of, do I want all of my projects at a glance on a page, or do I want more robust information and each one gets its own page? I also experimented with half sheets. So your main sheet has your main project on it, And then those main project items refer to a half sheet that sits with your main project planner. So you're always referencing between the two. Your main sheet is going to send you to your half sheet, and that's where you're collecting those data points or items that you need to do or whatever. So so far I've done it 3 different ways. And depending on what you're using it for, they work a little differently. But I loved using half sheets because it was the 8.5 by 11, perfect amount of real estate just to see everything, know what you need to do, and be able to prioritize. Okay, researching this some more, that can wait until next week. These scenes that are hot in my mind, I need to get those written now. So it kind of allows you to, figure out your workflow for whatever the writing project is. Does that help?
Thank you. I already, when you're talking half sheets, my mind is jumping because I'm thinking we're talking about a separate sheet for each project, which I like the idea of. But with the half sheet, you have, your main, you could have your master plan behind, and each project could have its own half sheet. And you could have 4, by just folding it differently. You could have, the main sheet folded in half. You could reference whichever one you're working on could come to the front. Especially if you, in the 11 disc, if you flip it over for the other side, each one could be exactly what you see is the one you're working on. Done with that one for the day, flip it over, and the other one, fold it the other way. I love it. I love it. Thank you.
And everything has to have a craft built into it. So yeah, that's how it works. Another thing that I experimented with was doing half pages this way, so I could only see 2 projects at a time. So I did that. That was okay too, but really it's the main question that you need to determine for yourself is what do I need in my direct field of vision that keeps me on task and helps me, make sure that I'm making good progress. For me, that means seeing the most that I can. However, well, when I was in the middle part of the Zettelkasten for Fiction Writers book, the middle is huge. And I would only allow myself that half sheet. I was only looking at one thing at a time, because if I was looking at any more than that, it was way too much. Way too much. So you have to figure out what works.
Yeah, I love it. I love the idea of that. I can already picture myself having the full sheet for the master plan and then the folded sheet being all my sticky notes, so that when I'm ready to say what I'm going to do today, it goes onto my clipboard, which I love for managing my sticky notes. And and then when they're done, they go over to the done cards, like I always keep for posting in my book. I think it'll fit right into the gap. Thank you.
Yeah.
Cool.
Absolutely. It's coming. I promise it's coming.
Well, thanks for sharing all of that, because we can use that technique without waiting for the book. You've shared enough that any of us just pull out Excel and make one of those things. It's not impossible.
Oh yeah, you can it's totally customizable. I can post over in the group, I can post this one if you want one to work off of.
Fabulous.
But,
yeah. And the group is
LiLLiPub.org. And our public area where we talk about all things Zettelcast is the Roanoke Project. So you can go over there, join that group. Anyone who's a member of LiLLiPub can join that group. And you will find the master sheet that Victoria is going to post for us, so we can all get started with her 60 for success, and taking it from the vision box to action items. Deb, maybe we can get you to post your incredible list of how you evaluate the actionability. You had such an amazing list of ways of looking at actionability of the cards. Could we persuade you to post that in Roanoke as well? Or people in LiLLiPub.org. And then, so you can join LiLLiPub.org and you can become a contributing member of Roanoke there. Or if you want to stay a little more shy about it, you can still come to LiLLiPub.org and sign up for email notifications. And you will get a link to the public areas that are outside of LiLLiPub, because some of our things we share to the wider world. But there's some lovely, lovely things that you have to be a member of LiLLiPub.org to enjoy.
And lovely, lovely people.
Yes.
All right. Well, I think we've had a full hour. Any final thoughts? All right. Thoughts about who wants to go next?
I can do next week.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Well, thanks for listening this long. Bye-bye, everyone.
That's it.